how are you?
Correct. There was no mention.
I'm good. How are you?
Honey, I'm hanging in
The
here.
statement urged all synagogues to take
Hanging in
to
here.
protect their community and
We
facility.
have
The mayor in
had
Jersey
quite the
City
week.
says police will be posted at the city's
Yes,
synagogues.
sure.
Those will be added
This is
in
the
broader
third
Jewish community.
hospitalization in
Kyrie Irving is
8
apologizing
weeks.
now after the Brooklyn Nets suspended him for at least 5
So I
games
had
without
to stay
pay.
there and find
He
out what was
posted a
going
link to an
on.
anti-Semitic
But
word on
now
his
I
Twitter
know.
feed. He
So
addressed
we're
his
good.
apology to Jewish families.
Just
and
give me 1
communities,
minute so I
saying he was
can.
deeply
Paul, were you able to
sorry
give me
for
those
the
extra
cost
2
of
minutes,
pain.
please?
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says her husband Paul is back home now out of
Paul?
the hospital after he was attacked in their San Francisco home by a man with a hammer. The Astros lead the Phillies in the World Series.
Yeah, I got the 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Can
This
you
is
speak?
AP
Can you
News.
speak so you can let me know if you can hear her?
I haven't heard her yet.
Okay.
AP's Charles de Ledesma with word that many Ukrainians are worried.
Okay. Can you
about the
keep speaking,
possibility of
Pastor,
nuclear
so we
weapons
can make sure that he can hear you. That we can hear you.
Month. Many Ukrainians no longer ask
Pastor Williams?
by nuclear weapons.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, keep speaking. Just we're doing a mic test.
Possibility. Over the decades,
HIJKLMNOPQRSUB.
or what's
Hey, all my morning stars. Can you hear her
Sounds
now?
good on my end.
You can hear her?
make a survival plan.
Yes.
Okay,
Ukraine,
thank you.
After all, has seen the world's worst nuclear disaster at Chernobyl in
Yes, I
1986.
always have a great
In an
show.
interview with the Associated Press, presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak says, of course, Ukraine takes this threat seriously because we understand what kind of country we're dealing with, referring to Russia. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
And I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
And here's the latest Chicago weather update. A wind advisory will go into effect here early.
What time are we coming up, Paul?
We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here.
6:08.
Thank you.
Breezy south winds around 15 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35. Tonight, a chance for showers and thunderstorms here late. Cloudy and a low near 57. Saturday, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, temperature steady early, then slowly falling. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 64.
This is President Barack Obama. Illinois will always hold a special place in my heart. You believed in me before anyone else did. And you believed in J.B. Pritzker too. Before J.B. became governor, things were a mess. So he worked to balance the budget, pay bills on time, and improve Illinois' credit rating. And J.B. hasn't just helped put us on a stronger financial footing. He's made Illinois a national leader on so many issues we care about. Raising the minimum wage, protecting voting rights, cracking down on the sale of illegal guns. JB also signed a landmark law protecting a woman's right to choose. So, when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, Illinois became a safe haven for women everywhere. That's why I'm proud to cast.
Hey, you
my
all,
ballot
you know I'm trying to get
re-elect J.B.
ready,
Pritzker.
get the rest of this. Hope you all are getting ready for
Paid for by
a
JB for Governor.
wonderful weekend.
Tom Hartman.
Are you surprised by this? That the Law and Order Party that has been spewing this for 60 years now is now threatening riots. Lindsey Graham on Fox News came right out and said if Donald Trump is prosecuted, there will be riots in the streets. He literally used the word riots. He didn't say demonstrations. He didn't say protests. He didn't say people will be holding signs. He said riots. Right.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program. Weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820.
This is a WCPT 820 Heartland Signal News Minute.
Brandon Johnson announced his campaign to unseat incumbent Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot in an October 27 launch event that took place close to Jenner Academy of the Arts, the Chicago elementary school where he began his teaching career. He spoke to WCPT prior to launching his campaign.
My wife and I were raising our 3 children on the west side of Chicago in Austin.
And families like mine all over the city of Chicago are desperately wanting government to work for working families. And quite frankly, we have not experienced that. And so my consideration for this office is very much connected to my desire as a father and as a husband to have a safe, thriving community in which my children can play outside without the worry of a simple bike ride ending in a tragedy because of the pervasive violence that we are experiencing right now.
For WCPT 820 and Heartland Signal, I'm Andy Miles.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-306-8158 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-306-8158. That's 800-306-8158. What do you have to lose? Call 800-306-8158. Again, 800-306-8158.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, men of all races across the country volunteered. 1 minute. Despite the United States Army being heavily segregated, black enlistees were mostly assigned to combat support roles. But this did not stop Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, who knew of the racism and pushed his soldiers to achieve excellence. The 761st Tank Battalion was formed in the spring of 1942. It contained 30 black officers, 6 white officers, and 676 enlisted men. The unit donned the nickname the Black Panthers, wearing patches on their uniforms with a panther on it and the slogan, "Come Out Fighting." And in 1944, the 761st was assigned to General George Patton's Third Army in France. General Patton gave a colorful speech to his crew, and the Black Panthers became the first African-American tank squad in World War II. By the end of the war, the Black Panthers had fought further east than every other United States unit, receiving 391 decorations for their heroism.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Friday. It's a joy to be with you today. Let the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. I think it's important to say that today because we're going to be talking about political violence in America. It's not new. It's not new. There was even an NPR report that went and spoke with civil rights veterans, several of whom I knew because I grew up with them. And they said, this feels like the 60s, the 50s. This is really America's history, but we can't have we can't have a constitutional republic that has democratic urgings. We can't even move toward a democracy if we are going to be violent. That is why Dr. King's teachings were so important. So important, and it's important today. So I am Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want to know what you think about political violence in America today. Thank God Paul Pelosi is recovering, the Speaker Pelosi's husband. He, nearly a week after this attack that could have killed him, killed by a man who we don't quite know who he is. We do know that he is a Canadian national who overstayed his visa. And that's not the reason that he did this. There's just a lot that went into that. But we know that politically he was motivated. We know that thus far. And it is very painful to think that she could have lost her husband to this political climate in which we find ourselves. But we've been living in it. Certainly I've been living in it all of my life. I've shared some of my stories with you. And I want to know what you think about it. And what do you think about this political climate in which we find ourselves? This political climate, which is called the social climate. What do you think about it? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. We have poll watchers who are wearing bulletproof vests. Yeah, it's gotten like that. We have people who are at the ballot boxes holding guns, threatening voters. What do you think about that? I want to hear your thoughts. Call me at 773-763-9278. Of course, Attorney Darrell Jones is going to be on with us to tell us what we should do if you encounter that. And if you encounter anything that is untoward in the polls as you're trying to, at the ballot box, when you're trying to drop off your vote, when you're trying to vote, how do you protect your vote? We're going to find that out here on the Santita Jackson Show. So let's get right to it today. We're going to be talking with Senator Vincent Hughes from Pennsylvania, State Senator Vincent Hughes. What is going on there? It seems like John Fetterman might pull it out, but we don't know. Oprah Winfrey endorsed not the person who she put on the map, Dr. Mehmet Oz. She endorsed John Fetterman. That's very interesting. And so will that make a difference? A lot of these races are this close. So we will see. We're going to get a good word from Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams on the Santita Jackson Show, but let's get to these headlines. In Chicago, it's going to be spring-like today. Who can believe that we are just a few weeks out from Thanksgiving? It's going to be 69 degrees in Chicago. Scattered showers. In Minneapolis, St. Paul, 45 degrees and cloudy. In Major League Baseball, the Astros pulled it out last night, 3-2 over the Phillies, and they lead in the World Series 3-2. They're going back to Houston. They could close it out there. Will they do it? We will see. This would be the first World Series win in 25 years of coaching for Dusty Baker, who is, of course, the coach for the Houston Astros. Kind of pulling for him because, he was one of Hank Aaron's teammates. Of course, he and Ralph Garr, they were the young guys on the team, but they were very protective of Mr. Aaron. And I just know him as a child. I'm so happy to see this success. And his son is a rising star in the baseball world. So it's a very, very exciting thing to watch this. But it's been a great series thus far, tight 3-2. Let's see who's going to win. In the NBA, the Bulls will be playing the Celtics tonight. The Bucks will be playing the Timberwolves. And in the NHL, Chicago beat the Kings 2-1. And the Kraken, well, they shut out the Wild 4-0. Everybody, please get out and vote. Vote.org. Find out if you are still registered. You can remedy that and find out where you can vote. If you can do that, if you go to vote.org, and if there is anything that happens to you outside the polls, inside of the polls, that is preventing you from voting, if you have any question about voting, call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, and call these lawyers. Do not leave the polling place. Do not leave the ballot box until your vote has been cast. But get the legal advice. They're there waiting to help you. Drowning in our democracy. This is a time when your voice needs to be heard. U.S. billionaires, according to this report, have pumped nearly $900 million into this election. With a week under the U.S. midterm elections, Americans for Tax Fairness revealed yesterday that billionaires have poured $900 million into the midterms. But I tell you what, you can turn this around. This torrent of billionaire cash is drowning the democracy, everybody, according to Frank Clemente, Executive Director for Americans for Tax Fairness. Money talks, but guess what? If you walk to the polls and cast your vote, you can upend all of that. Speaking of which, at least outside of the British royal family, the wealthiest man in the world is Elon Musk. He purchased Twitter. He will begin laying off Twitter employees this morning, according to a memo sent to staff, as several employees sue Elon Musk, alleging the layoffs are in violation of labor law. An email sent yesterday evening that they will receive notice by 12 p.m. Eastern time by email, everybody. Yikes. The memo comes after previous reports that Musk had planned to lay off up to half of the company's staff after acquiring it last week for $44 billion. Health officials are reinforcing their recommendations for people to get flu vaccines as this year's strain picks up across the U.S. Going to be asking Dr. Shanina Knighton about that. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol has interviewed more Secret Service witnesses, including the head of former Vice President Mike Pence's detail. The committee is also expected to interview at least another half dozen Secret Service witnesses in the coming weeks. President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program remains on hold while a federal appeals court considers a legal challenge brought by 6 Republican-led states. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Looking forward to hearing the good word from the anointed Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams from the First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton, New York. And of course, I See You, Sis is her book. Go to Amazon, get I See You, Sis. You will be blessed by it. Pastor, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you? Good morning, everyone. It's so great to be with you as always.
Oh, always great to be with you. Talk to us. We need a good word today. I know I do.
Well, interestingly enough, today is a very interesting day. What if I were to tell you that today is Common Sense Day?
Are you serious?
Today, December 4th, yes, is when we acknowledge Common Sense Day. Now, my pastor, Reverend Earl Jones Sr. of the First Calvary Baptist Church in Brooklyn, New York, had a famous saying, and he would always say this: common sense ain't so common.
At all.
Common sense ain't so common. One would think that everybody has common sense, everybody has street smarts, but when we talk about common sense is sound judgment in practical matters. If we were to take it to the Bible, Proverbs 8:5 lets us know that we can develop or need to develop common sense. Other translations call it prudence or discretion. So biblically, biblically, common sense can be thought of as a combination of wisdom and discretion. What is that? Wisdom is knowing what to do. Discretion is knowing where to do it. One more time. Wisdom is knowing what to do. Discretion is knowing when and where to do it. And when we put the two together, we have, and even right now, someone under the sound of my voice is struggling with common sense. Someone is wrestling with a wisdom-filled decision. They may not know what to do, and they don't know where and when to do it. I want to help you with that today. I want to help you make 9 tips for making better decisions, 9 tips to activate your common sense. Do you have decision-making process, or do you fly by the seat of your pants? Have you made a lot of good decisions or bad decisions over the years? If that's the case, you can benefit from having better common sense. You can benefit from learning how to make better decisions. The first thing is know your desired outcome. When do you want it, and what do you want? When you know what you want, the solution becomes clearer. What's the point of considering a given option? Is it to maximize your income? Is it to enhance your health? Is it to find a relationship? Is it to get a housekeeper? Is it learn a skill? What is it? Define what you're attempting to accomplish. Be rational while making a decision. You don't think as clearly when you're stressed, tired, or uncomfortable in any way. As Snickers says, you're not yourself when you're hungry. And so when we exercise wisdom, we're not often ourselves. Number 3, keep the long term in mind. What's the end game? Consider how your decision will affect your life in weeks, months, or even years down the road. Here's a good rule of thumb. Can you control it? Is it going to matter to you in 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months, or 5 years? If not, then maybe you need to let it go. That's wisdom. Number 4, know how you handle the worst possible outcome. Worst case scenarios. When you know that you can handle the worst, it's easier to make up your mind and get what you want with your life and get on with your life. Think about everything that could go wrong and determine how you would handle it. Number 5, take enough time to make a good decision, but not longer. Sometimes decisions take longer than others, but in order to avoid paralyzing ourselves, we can't just hone in on that decision. Procrastination won't enable you to make a better choice. Sometimes you got to make the decision and move with it. Number 6, use your past experience. Every one of us has receipts. Every one of us has a track record with God. What can you use from your past to help you make a wise decision now? All your previous good and bad decisions are resources you can call upon now. I say it this way: nothing is wasted in God's economy. Number 7, get assistance from an expert. If you don't know enough about a subject, if you don't know enough about the decision that you're going to make, get the help that you need. There's always someone who does it a little bit better than you. Reach out to that person and get help from an expert. Number 8, take action immediately. After making a decision, it's important to do something about it. Make it a habit to take at least one small step that supports your decision. And number 9, know your value. When you know your value, you're out of strength, and that makes it easier to choose what's important to you today. How does the decision to make relate to those values? Listen, common sense and making better decisions is the best way to enhance your life. A poor decision isn't necessarily fatal, but it can be hard to recover from. So today, make a decision to have common sense. Common sense ain't that common, but you can change that today, and that's the good news.
Amen to that. I love that. I love that. And let me just ask you this, because sometimes people feel that there's a real disconnect between the teachings in the church and, does it have a practical application? I mean, like every day, like just everyday stuff. Yeah. And you're saying to us that what we learn in the pews, we can carry out into the public and in our private lives.
Absolutely. That's how it should be. What we learn in church is not just for that hour and a half that we're sitting there. What we should be learning is practical tools that we can take out to the streets. One of the things that I do whenever I'm preparing a sermon, after I've done my exegesis, after I've done word study and all of those scholarly things, you know what the next question I ask myself, Santita, is? What does that have to do with my life? And I don't ask for myself, I ask it for the person sitting in the audience, sitting in the congregation, that maybe that's the foremost thought on their mind. And really that's a metaphor to say, what does this have to do with me right now? What does it have to do with me in this moment? How can I take what I've learned today and apply it to life? That's what good preaching is. It ought to teach, not just rebuke or inspire, or even make people need to leave the church building with more than a feel-good feeling. They need to leave with resources that they can use and apply to everyday life. And any preacher who doesn't do that is not exercising common sense.
Well, no, I appreciate that. I mean, because I think that that's what turns a lot of people off about the church, not to mention the fact that, even I think when pastors are honest about their own struggles with faith, within their marriages, relationships, personal struggles, it helps you. I mean, some people need the pastor to be exalted, right? I've never agreed with that. Not just because I'm the daughter of a minister, but I also know the real struggles of ministers, as do you. They are among the most likely to divorce, which surprises people. They deal with suicidal tendencies. Many people don't know, when Dr. King's grandmother died, he was so bereft that he jumped off the top of his house. Right? It's, because he struggled with depression. And most brilliant people had, every gift you have has something that weighs you down with it. And I felt moved to ask you about that today, because I think that there's a lot, I think, that we're missing, in these practical applications of these spiritual lessons.
That's right.
So when you talk about common sense, I'm like, whoa, a preacher talking about common sense.
Oh yeah.
But it's important. It really
and it matters. And transparency matters in the pulpit. As a matter of fact, there's data that proves that people want more transparency in preaching now. And I actually, believe it or not, COVID helped us with that. If we were to lean into some of these experiences that we've had, these shared human experiences, we would find for preachers, we don't have to figure out what to preach. The world has given us what we need to preach. We are all having a shared human experience. We're all experiencing the same thing. And so people are actually looking for more transparency from the pulpit these days. And what happens is, when a preacher does that, it makes them emotionally intelligent. It means that they are proactive about connecting with people in not just an emotional way, but in an emotional, intelligent way that acknowledges how they're feeling and what they're going through and saying, hey, I'm feeling the same thing and going through it too. Another point is it's not always about being transparent in order to find solution. I think more preachers also need to be transparent and wrestle in a space and be okay with that. It's okay to leave the desk with no answers. I think one of the most encouraging things we can say as pastors and leaders is, and you know what? I don't know. I'm still dealing with it, but let's work this thing out together. I think that encourages.
How about that? You know, because I see, you know, honestly, I see Pastor Warnock, you know, struggling with some of the great public questions. You know, for example, like reproductive rights. And, you know, I was reading an article about Russia and their relationship with the LGBTQ plus community. They are an Orthodox Christian country. And so instead of attacking them, I think you need to understand philosophically where they come from. They know, I mean, the only reason they kicked the church out was because the church was obstructing social progress. That was what happened to Castro in Cuba. He said the Catholic Church is not supporting our fight to save the poor. So y'all got to get out of here because you're a country. You're one of the most powerful institutions on earth. You got to get out of this country because you are thwarting our progress. And so my father took Castro to church for the first time, he said, I think in 25 or 30 years. He had not been to church since the revolution until my father took him in 1984. He said, because I grew up Catholic, and my mother grew up Catholic, and they had the same struggle. She said, when I saw them not jumping in to support these freedom movements, she said it was devastating to me because my mother wanted to be a nun, right? You know, I mean, like many good Catholic girls, you know, they aspire to that. She was like, she said, and I saw that and it hurt me and it really bothered me. It was very disturbing. So I think that we need to have these discussions. And one day I want you to come back and talk about that. Because I think that there are common sense applications. There are everyday applications that you're teaching, which is why we love having you every Friday. You're so powerful. No, because it's a practical application that you're giving me, and that is what we all need. We all need that. I need a gospel that's going to make some sense and help me to not go crazy here.
Absolutely. Otherwise, what is it for? Otherwise, he will have just made a good speech on Sunday.
God would have just blown some smoke. He wouldn't have sent a man down here named Jesus. Okay? What's the point of making Jesus human? if Jesus ain't going to understand you. Come on now.
That is correct.
Get the book, I See You, Sis, everybody. I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. It's Going to Bless You by Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. Sending you much love, my dear sister. Let's talk about protecting your vote and political violence in America. What do you think about that, everybody? Call me at 773-763-9278. Can political violence and democracy coexist? Sending again much love and many prayers to the Pelosi family. Paul Pelosi is home, thank God. Thank God. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, I will call you a little bit later because I can actually breathe today.
All right. Fantastic. I look forward to it. Love you.
Love you too, honey. I will call you a little bit later when I got to go see my dad a little bit later. When I get off the air, I'm going to run and see him for a minute and then get on with the rest of my day. Whew.
Let me know if you need anything. I said, let me know if you need anything.
Oh, girl, I promise you.
On the line.
I'm sorry? Pastor, I will. I'm sorry. We have Chaparral on the line?
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Paul, we have Chaparral on the line. Chaparral?
Yeah, we have her on the line.
Okay, do we have Attorney Jones or Attorney Connolly?
Nope.
Okay, are you not getting an answer from them or you're just about to try?
I haven't been able to dial them yet.
Okay, thank you. Just let me know. Thank you. Hi, Chaparral. How you doing?
I'm good, Santita. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay.
Attorney Jones is on the line.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Attorney Jones, Mr. Kenosha, how you doing?
Hey, good morning. Doing well. Thank you.
Okay.
How about yourself?
I am. What's the song say? I will not complain. I won't complain. So God is good all the time.
Amen. No mistakes.
None. My pastor used to say, God is too wise to make a mistake and too kind to be cruel. And I believe that to be true.
Attorney Connolly is on the line.
Thank you. Attorney Connolly, how you doing?
Good morning, Ms. Santita. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Wonderful.
Ready for Tuesday.
Okay. Oh, my gosh. Me too. And you know what? I do want to have, can you work with me on getting State Representative Ramirez on?
Yes, ma'am. It's tentatively on her schedule, just in case. So,
Well, you know, I know she's campaigning. I know how that goes, you know? But I want to get her on at least one time before she gets out of here. I'm going to try and get my brother on too. Hello.
yeah, absolutely. Great to have them together.
We don't have to twin them, but that would be great. We got to keep our coalitions going.
Exactly.
So, and you are on with, of course, Attorney Daryl Jones.
Good morning.
Good morning, Aaron. Good morning. How are you?
30 seconds.
I'm well. Where in the world is Attorney Daryl Jones this morning?
Actually, I'm in Maryland until tomorrow.
Okay.
Where are you going from there?
Oh, Wisconsin.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Uh-huh. That's right. Go on. Keep on with Wisconsin. That's all right. Keep on with it. Sounded like my grandmother. Girl, Helen now. Oh, my gosh. Go on. Keep on going with that. Uh-huh.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am breathing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Friday, November 4th, 2022. 4 days until the midterms. It's just hard to believe we're like 2 years into the Biden presidency already. And now every seat in the U.S. House of Representatives is up for grabs. And 1/3 of the U.S. Senate up for grabs. The governorships, the state legislatures, secretaries of state. Do not forget to vote down ballot, everybody. And please, now we're beginning to see judges campaigning on television in a way that I don't recall having seen before. More and more people are paying attention to these judges, and because they're elected. And we need to know who they are. We need to know what their stances are on particular issues. Although, that can change when they're adjudicating, when they are ruling on a case. So please get involved, everybody. Go to vote.org and call 1-866-OUR-VOTE when you are having some challenges. Of course, we're going to we have with us, shall I say, Attorney Daryl Jones and Attorney Aaron Connolly as we talk about voter protection, because now we're seeing more and more armed people who are circling polling places and ballot boxes. And we have poll workers, election judges who are wearing Kevlar vests. I mean, come on, everybody, really? And that's going to help us to move into a conversation on political violence in America. We continue to say that political violence is something new. We've not been here before. That is not true. This is where we have been living since the founding of the Republic. The question is, can we continue? No, not and have the Republic and democracy thrive and survive. No, we cannot. We have to choose where we go from here, as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King wrote more than 50 years ago, chaos or community. Okay, what are we going to do? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. How can some people laugh about the attack upon Paul Pelosi? There's nothing funny about that. Nothing. Why is that funny? Why is that funny? Never, that's just cruel. And it lets me know not just your political immaturity, but your mean-spiritedness. Just, I don't care what party someone is. You don't do that. My mother had me sit down and pray for George Wallace when he was shot when I was a child. And I knew he was a flagrant racist. I knew that he was not on our side politically or socially. But just the spiritual discipline of just to pray for another human being who's been hurt. Think about that, everybody. And let's protect our vote. All right, I put my order in with you, Chaparral, for the holiday celebrations by us. And you keep letting everybody know that you're limiting your orders. I'm glad business is going so well, and I'm glad I got in just under the wire.
Yes, Santita, we have to limit because my husband says I need to be present for Thanksgiving. So we are taking limited orders, but we are definitely assisting you with your turkey, your mashed potatoes, your dressing, your mac and cheese, your green beans, and your greens. And let's not forget our desserts, our sweet potato pie, our peach cobbler, our banana pudding, our caramel cake, and red velvet cake. We have it all, whatever it is that you need. Don't hesitate to give us a call, 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. We also do full table setup and decor. We can organize your Friendsgiving, as they're saying these days, and we can do everything that you need from balloon arches to custom table and flower arrangements, whatever it is that you need, 708-526-4546. We look forward to serving you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Oh, I love it. And we used to do that when I lived in New York. Because I always came home for the holiday, always. But, because I was living with all my friends throughout the year, it felt kind of odd not being with them on Thanksgiving, right? And so we would have the Sunday before Thanksgiving, I'd had about 30 or 40 people over to my little apartment. And boy, we had some fun. We had some good times. I just found some of my old pictures.
Now a new TikTok trend. It's a new TikTok trend called Friendsgiving. So that's how everybody is getting together. They do a lot of color coding, gifts, and sharing, and it's just really fun. So it's a great way to celebrate the holidays with people who are family, even though that they're not blood.
Absolutely. And happy anniversary to you and your husband. You and your husband celebrated how many years of marriage?
25 years, Santita, and we are very blessed, thanks to God, that we are able to sustain our marriage. And so we are very grateful. Thank you so much.
3 children, 1 grandchild, another one on the way. Yay, yay, yay. Praise the Lord. And we thank God he's a wonderful, wonderful man who's married to a wonderful woman. And he gives you a lot of space. It takes a real big man to step back. And he's a big guy. And he steps back and he just lets your pearl run the world. And he supports her. There's a lesson in that. Very seriously, there's a lesson in that. He does nothing but support you, and I have nothing but love and respect for him. He's just an absolute jewel, and you have a beautiful, beautiful family. God bless you. Happy anniversary once again, everybody. Let's talk about voter protections with Attorney Erin Connolly, brilliant political strategist. I tease you about Kirsten Sinema, but watching her turn, her corporate turn, I know has got to have been disturbing to you, unsettling and painful. And, you know, people in Arizona and people who were just nationally who were looking at her as someone who could be a progressive, there's a sense of betrayal there. There's no question about that. But, you know, we've got the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition with us, Attorney Darrell Jones. And later on, we're going to have Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes to give us the latest on what's happening in Pennsylvania. That race between Mehmet Oz and John Fetterman is tighter than this. We'll hear from from State Senator, Vincent Hughes, as we talk about political violence today. Also, call me at 763-763-9278, 763-9278. Let's talk about political violence in America today. Attorney Darrell Jones, what should we be on the lookout for? I mean, if you find that you've been purged from the voter rolls, for example, what should you do now? I mean, we're 4 days away from the actual midterm elections themselves.
Oh, and thank you, Santita, and good morning. And of course, you know, the immediate thing that we tell everyone to do right now before you do anything else is start by just going to vote.org and checking on your voting registration and your status and seeing where you are and where you are to vote. Now, if you find out that you've been purged from the voter rolls, it depends on the state that you're in. If you're in a state that still offers same-day registration, meaning that it's a state that says that you can come down on voting day, register to vote, and vote, that's what you should do. Beyond that, you want to go to your local board of elections to find out what's going on with your voting status, if there is an error or something that would permit you to be able to still cast a ballot. So go to your local board of elections if you find out that you've been purged from the rolls. If you are in that state, or if you're in one of the states that has the same-day voter registration, some of them will go up until Election Day. Some of them will stop, and some states will begin again on Election Day. So you have to find out what the rules of your state are. Your local board of elections can answer that question. Vote.org will be able to answer that question. So, you know, go there to find out when, if your state has same-day voter registration, and if it does, then you can still register and vote on that same day, Santita.
What do you do? I'm just going to walk down this road with you and with Attorney Aaron Connolly. What do you do if you drop off, if you're approaching the ballot box, because you're going to drop off your vote, and you see someone who's menacing, someone who has a gun, someone who's shouting at you, someone who's trying to intimidate you, if not outright threaten to kill you? What do you do?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a couple of things that I would suggest that you do. The first thing is to take care of yourself. Be certain that you're safe. You want to use your weapon, your cell phone, because you need to document what's happening. So if you can take a picture of what's going on, take a picture of what's going on. If the person is addressing you, speaking to you, and you have the ability and the know-how on how to record it, you want to record the exchange of information that's going on, what's being said to you, the threat that's being posed. You then want to report it to there should be someone there from Election Protection. If there's someone from Election Protection at the site, you want to report it to them, as well as to the head election official in the polling place. But the most important thing is to be certain that you are safe. And then after being certain that you are safe, you want to be certain to record it, to take that picture with the cell phone, or to, if the recording device with your cell phone, you're able to record what's happening. After you've recorded what's happening, you want to provide that to not only the election protection folks that's there and the election judge, but you also want to provide it to call the 866-OUR-VOTE. Let them know what has happened. Let them know that you have it recorded, and you'll have the ability to upload it to their system. The same is true with the Legal Defense Fund. If you're in a state that the Legal Defense Fund is monitoring, they will have a link that's available. You can go online to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and you'll be able to upload the information, the video, or the pictures that you have of what has happened. so that they can initiate an investigation into what's happening. And it's immediate. It's not something that's going to take days or anything like that. These are all immediate things. The same is true with the 866 Our Vote. They will initiate an immediate investigation into what's happening. So those are the steps that are highly recommended to take if you find yourself in that type of situation.
Attorney Aaron Connolly, I think voter intimidation has really been highlighted by what's been happening in Arizona. It's not only happening in Arizona, but it's happening everywhere. It's happening in many, many places, but Arizona appears to be very forward. People with guns at the ballot boxes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have a gubernatorial candidate who's locked in a tighter than this race with the sitting governor, who's saying that, if she wins, she'll accept the results. If she doesn't win, crickets you hear from her. And, all of that stirs up a lot of feelings, and people, 1 in 4 Americans feel that it's okay to take violent action today, in these political disagreements. I mean, we're living in a really, really interesting time. What is happening in Arizona right now?
Well, Arizona is a very special place, and I spent about 6 years in Arizona in the Phoenix metro area, but was an organizer and activist and political consultant throughout the whole state. So it's a different place. It's still the Wild West. It's mostly independent voters, and there's a spirit in Arizona of nonconformity, that it really does have this Wild West mentality.
What is the Wild West mentality? I mean, what is, because, and I think that we need to understand America. I think you would agree also, Attorney Jones, there are a lot of different cultures here within the broader culture. It's just, the Wild West, people who settled, get off my land. This is the part of the country where people, well, they got it everywhere. Everybody got it but Black people. Well, you got land to settle. So they were fighting with indigenous people and all that. I mean, there's a thinking there. There's a thinking in the Republic of Texas. Attorney Aaron Connolly. They don't even call themselves a state. They're like, we are the Republic of Texas. I'm like, whoa, okay. So what is the Wild West mentality? What is that?
And it's similar in that way. It's nonconformity. It's kind of a double-edged sword of open-mindedness and potential for mayhem, to be honest with you. So when we were training canvassers in Arizona, even in the metro areas, we would always talk about the likelihood that, the owners of the property, especially if you're out in the rural areas, most likely have guns. There may be animals. We're training for scorpions, but there's also this sense of I witnessed more folks wanting to talk, wanting to invite people into their homes, provide hospitality, and really hear what people had to say. So there really is both sides to this, in my experience in Arizona. The problem that we're seeing now is since really before Trump was elected, during that campaign, we saw an activation of the more white supremacist, racist tendencies that have existed in Arizona since the Civil War, before it was a state. And those people, many folks come to live in Arizona from moving other places, but there's a strong contingency of folks that have been there since the territory times and take great pride in their families, working the land and being in Arizona their entire lives of their families, right? So it's an interesting culture. There's cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and then there's Metro Phoenix, which is one of the largest cities in the country. So what we're seeing now is these fringe groups. We see many of the January 6th folks and those key players, those key personalities from that day were from Arizona and charged with crimes related to that. So what we're seeing is this boldness from this group. The Phoenix Sheriff's Department is I think, handling this reasonably well, but we're still seeing reports of incitement of violence. The gubernatorial candidate, Carrie Lake, is posting nooses on her Twitter feed this morning and stoking those fires more. So it's difficult to get a hold on this from a police perspective when the candidates are still going out there, when we have Donald Trump saying that the election results were fraudulent and questioning potential results on Tuesday, right? So I think the big fear in Arizona is making sure Election Day voting is safe and that people are able to access the polling sites, right? So the election protection teams are out in full force. I think thank you to Attorney Daryl Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition, who outlined exactly what folks should do there. There will be election protection people. They are on the ground. Those systems of reporting actually work. I know Attorney Jones and myself have organized those systems where we are out protecting the vote, recruiting attorneys to do that. If you call the free toll-free number,
866-OUR-VOTE. Yeah.
866-OUR-VOTE. Folks will activate and come help. You have to look for the election judges if you don't feel you're getting an answer. I think making that call is the most important thing to do, because those people there are real people supporting that. This isn't something that's going to get left in a voicemail. We actually move on this stuff. So that's an important tool. But in Arizona, I am praying and hoping that we have a safe, functional election. The good news is, as many people do return their votes by mail in Arizona. For almost 20 years, they've had a great system called the Pebble, and a lot of folks are exercising their right to vote that way and not having to use these drop boxes. So.
But when you have Attorney Daryl Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, indeed, you are going to Georgia because people have requested that you watch the polls, that you literally stand there so that you can protect people as they vote. When you have candidates, I mean, you know what? This is not different, Daryl. We've seen this before. I saw an NPR report I was sharing with you. That's I just heard it a few days ago and I had to pull it. They had Bernard Lafayette, who, along with my father, was one of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's staff members. And they were saying this feels like what we went through in the 50s and the 60s. This is what this feels like. Because you had sheriffs, you had local, state, and county officials who were preventing people from voting. What do you do in the 2020s when you have when you actually have people who are standing in the way of you in the vote? I mean, do we have any recourse in real time, Attorney Daryl Jones?
Well, I think that your recourse in real time is the same process that we've put in place. Look, wherever you are in the United States of America, it is illegal for anyone to practice any type of intimidation regarding your vote. And so if it's an elected official or a non-elected official, if they're intimidating you and trying to interfere with your right to vote, it's illegal. And so what you want to do is you want to be certain, number one, to use your weapon to record what's going on, that cell phone, to record what's going on. And then step two is to contact election protection and call the 866-OUR-VOTE. Let them know what's going on. With the election protection, with the 866-OUR-VOTE, you'll also be connected to an attorney. And the lawyers will be able to walk you through to document. And it goes beyond that, because it's not just documenting and walking you through. But the lawyers there will be able to identify if there's a pattern or practice that's going on in that particular area that's trying to intimidate or suppress voters from accessing the ballot boxes. So that's extremely important. And Santita, let me add this, because we know, and you're going to have Senator Hughes on today. We know from when we were in Pennsylvania this past weekend in Philadelphia that we had a chance to talk to the Secretary of State there. In Pennsylvania, the various counties of Pennsylvania, and I don't remember the number, I believe there's 67 of them, they all have their own little fiefdoms with regards to how things are worked out for their election cycle and how their vote goes on. In at least one of those jurisdictions, according to the Secretary of State, they have sheriffs that are standing at the drop boxes that are questioning people that are coming up with their ballots about identification and various other questions. That's a form of voter intimidation and voter suppression. So, there are issues like that. So when you speak of, of the 60s and the intimidation that was coming from government officials, it's still happening. It's still there. And these are just the ones that we are, being able to identify, which is why we encourage people to, to record, to take pictures of instances like this that are happening across the country so we can piece it all together. So we'll know what's happening and we can then address it.
I want you to call us at 773-763-9278. Have you had any challenges voting? I hope that even if you have, that you will continue to go on and vote. This is the moment that you make your voice heard. The billionaires who spent almost $1 billion on this election, more than $900 million, unbelievable. Or should I say unbelievably? It is unbelievable, and unbelievably they spent that much money, but they know how important being involved in the political process is, which is why you must be involved in the political process. You must vote. On Tuesday or by Tuesday, you and the billionaires will be on equal footing. Okay? Think about that. Think about that. They are no more important than you. And when you know that you are somebody, you will get out there and vote, and you will vote with a passion. I'm asking people to get out and vote. Get out and vote. Go to vote.org. Find out your status. Find out if you've been purged from the voter rolls and remedy it. Find out where you can vote, where you're supposed to vote. Find that out right now. And if you have any kind of trouble at the polls or as you're trying to approach the ballot box, these drop boxes, call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, pull out that phone, take pictures, make you a nice home movie. Make sure you do that. Let's talk about political violence in America. There's nothing new, sadly, about politically motivated violence in America. It's deeply ingrained in our politics. We've had our presidents killed. We've had other politicians who've been killed. Indeed, the assassin of President Abraham Lincoln, his last words as he was killed when he was resisting arrest was, "I did what I thought was best." Wow. So what do you think, everybody? What do you think about politically motivated violence in America? What do you think about it? Do you think it's new? If you listen to corporate-driven media, they will tell you that, oh, pshaw, we've not seen this before. This is terrible. We've been doing this a long time. Dr. King's assassination was politically motivated. Yes, it was. Medgar Evers' murder, his assassination was politically motivated. You can keep on going down the list. Now, the question is, are we going to continue to do this? We can't continue to do this and have a more perfect union. That's not going to work. That's why I'm a Democrat, but I'm glad everybody else isn't. What do they say in the church? Attorney Jones and Attorney Connolly? Well, I'm Baptist, but I'm glad God isn't. I just want people to participate in the process. That's the American way. So let's talk about politically motivated violence here on the Santita Jackson Show. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Back with more in just a minute. All right. Now, Attorney Connolly and Attorney Jones, you can stay with us till the bottom of the hour because I'm going to need a couple more lines. Is that okay? Unless Daryl has to go to Kenosha.
See, there you go again.
Oh, I looked at him. He was like, "Oh, I'm coming to Chicago." I said, "Oh, great. That's great. Hope to see you here." Then I looked on that schedule. I said, "Are you serious? You're going to divide Chicago with Kenosha today?" No shade to Kenosha, but I'm serious. And he said, "Oh, yeah." I was like, "You sound nuts," but that's all right. I'm leaving it alone. Nothing.
Attorney Fancher is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Never live it down.
Never, ever.
Live it down. There is some great apple picking up there. I will say that.
No, Kenosha is wonderful. Look, one of my favorite shows when I was a child was a show called Apple's Way. It was wonderful. I loved all that corny stuff. Look, I subscribe to what is it? Harlequin Romances. I got 4 per month. My mother thought I was absolutely nuts, but she said, "Okay, I will indulge her." I love this stuff. I love it. Apple's Way, based in Wisconsin, in Appleton, Wisconsin. I loved it. CBS on a Sunday night. I love those things. I know. I'm corny.
Mr. Green is on the line.
No, it sounds good.
You are not corny, Miss Santita.
Yeah, it is. It's okay. My mother would walk into my room and look at me and go, "Whew, okay, so honey, what is this about?" Oh, I love The Parent Trap, the old one. I think,
Oh, yes.
girl, whenever that's on TV, I stop everything. Everything. Haley Mills, anything Haley Mills did with Disney. I have the whole collection. Yes, y'all. I love it. I love Haley Mills. I love her. Yes. I love the Net Funicello and Frankie Avalon. Oh, I love that. It's corny. I love it.
Mr. McKee is on the line.
Love it. Y'all, love.
Me too. I used to watch those reruns on the Disney Channel. It was my favorite.
And when they got together in the end, I was so happy. I just knew that they were destined to be together. It was. Pollyanna. It was just everything. It was just, I love Haley Mills. I love her. I love it was wholesome and they had some really wonderful lessons in those wonderful movies. Well, let me say hello to, we're certainly not going to be doing that here. Dwight McKee, how you doing?
Pretty fair. How about you?
Okay, I hope you're doing better than fair. Attorney Mark Fancher, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Praise
you
the
guys
Lord.
are talking about all that girl stuff.
Now you sound like my brothers now. Look at you. You just said that to me.
Pollyanna has lessons for everyone.
Did you hear what he just said? All the girl stuff. Really? I can't believe. Oh, you sounded like my brothers. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. You sounded like Jesse in particular. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. You know that girl's crazy. Do we have Bryce up, Paul?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hey Bryce, how you doing? This is Bryce Green, everybody. The one who people want to throw him out because they feel that he's pro-Putin. He's just, Dennis Kucinich just did an interview, and he was asking the question, where are the pro-peace Democrats? I'm going to reach out to him and bring him on. I said, I love you, Dennis. That's why I love him. I said, that's why they pushed him out of Congress, too.
I'm a huge admirer of him.
Oh, I love him. I love him. I love him. I was on my way to go campaign for him up in Iowa when he dropped out the race. I was devastated. And he was one of the few people my father was like, well, honey, I don't think he's going to be able to beat Barack in this juggernaut. And I wasn't anti-Barack at all. But remember when Barack first went into office, he said he wasn't going to run for president. He was going to serve because he won in 2004. He was going to serve out those full 6 years. So other people started committing to other candidates. And so, hindsight, there we go. But Dennis Kucinich is still my guy. He's my guy. So stand by, everybody. We're going to be talking about political violence in America and what your thoughts are on it. And we're going to be bringing on at 7:45 Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes. He's going to give us an update on what's happening in Pennsylvania because that race is tighter than this, and I'm going to have to make a quick exit at 8 o'clock because I've got to make a run. But I'm so glad you all are with us today. Thank you, Dave. Sending everybody much love today. Hope you all are voting. So let's get right to it.
Santita?
Yes.
Can I briefly mention the issues that disabled voters are having in Texas with some of these new machines and what people can do if they
do
combat that?
Do me a favor. Give it to me in under a minute, okay? I'll come right to you. Okay, very good. And on Monday, I promise you, we'll put more focus on that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, because look, if you break your leg, you're disabled. If you don't believe it, approach a place that does not have a ramp. Trust. It'll change. It will.
Aaron, did Arizona have that same issue?
Aaron?
Yes, Arizona has a history of lack of ADA compliance in many government situations. Unfortunately, that's not surprising. But I think if some of these new touch screens are implemented, we're going to see more calls to 866 our vote about this. So,
well, think about that, because in the Black community with this rise in diabetes, we have a lot of amputees, a growing number of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's and really throughout America, but of course it hits Black America hardest and first. So that is, and poor people, indigenous people. Oh my gosh, it's So let's put particular focus on that on Monday, okay?
Thank you.
But in 1 minute, I'll give that to you. I'm going to run through these headlines because I want to get right into this discussion with all of you today. Well, Robert, we want Brian Kemp to walk around healthy. I just don't want him to be governor anymore. How about that? And Stacey Abrams never conceded that election, and she shouldn't have. On that, I agree. And I think that we would need to reserve the right to question all elections. I don't want to get off. I don't want to go in that direction either. But once things have been settled, they've been settled.
Change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Friday, November 4th, 2022. Have you voted, everybody? Please go to vote.org, vote.org. Find out if you're still registered. Find out where you go vote. If you have any trouble at the polls, either just outside or inside the polls. If you're trying to drop off your vote at a ballot box, at one of these drop boxes, and you are dealing with any kind of intimidation, pull out that phone, take pictures, make a movie, call 1-866-OUR-VOTE, and get some help from these wonderful lawyers who are there to help you, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Let's talk about politically motivated violence in America today. It's not new, everybody. Paul Pelosi, thank God, the husband of the Speaker of the House, third in line to the presidency, who was attacked in their home last Friday morning, about 2:30 in the morning. Wow. Cracked skull, had to have surgery. Well, thank God he went home yesterday. And he's facing a long recovery, but we are grateful to God that he is recovering. And I know that no one is more grateful than the Pelosi family, sending them much love, but they are, Medgar Evers' family feels that way too. They just didn't get a chance to see their loved one make it. The Kings feel that way. Malcolm X's family. We have a history of political violence. George Wallace's family. Well, yes, I'm putting them all in one basket because to me it's all one thing, politically motivated violence. That is not the way you resolve an issue. Let's talk about it here on the Santita Jackson Show today. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT in Chicago. We're going to have a high of 69 degrees, scattered showers. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 45 degrees and cloudy. In Major League Baseball, the Astros 3, the Phillies 2, and that is the Astros are up 3-2 now in the World Series. They're going back to Houston. Will they be able to close it out there? Well, I'm hoping so. Dusty Baker, the coach of that team, has been coaching for 25 years, one of Hank Aaron's last teammates when they were in Atlanta together. Well, he's been coaching for 25 years, one of the most successful coaches in all of Major League Baseball. This would be his first World Series win. So pulling for you, Mr. Baker. In the NBA, the Bulls will be facing off against the Celtics and the Bucks against the Timberwolves. In the NHL, Chicago 2, the Kings 1, the Kraken 4, and the Wild Zero. They were shut out, but that's all right. That's all right, everybody. $900 million. That's right. U.S. billionaires have pumped $900 million into the midterms. But guess what? Your vote can add up to that and more. So make sure you get out there and vote, everybody. Please get out there and vote. Elon Musk will begin laying off Twitter employees this morning, according to a memo sent to staff. He will lay them off. They will be fired from their jobs by email. Several employees, though, are suing Elon Musk, alleging the layoffs are in violation of labor law. We will see how that all pans out, everybody. Health officials are reinforcing the recommendations for people to get flu vaccines as this year's strain picks up its pace across the United States. Those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. And everybody, I want you to know that financial freedom can be yours. You do not have to have credit card debt. You don't. You shouldn't be using that debit card. You need to be moving toward getting a credit card. How do you do that? You call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. If you want to refinance your existing home, if you want to create a plan so that you can buy a home, call Team Hochberg. If you want to get a VA loan, an FHA loan, if you've been turned down before, maybe you need an advocate. If you have high credit card debt, I think you need an advocate. Don't interact with these companies by yourself. Let Team Hochberg do it for you. If you call them, you get a free consultation. Tell them everything. And they will follow up with you and create a plan that will get you on the road to financial freedom. Tom and Sonia did. 17 credit cards, $100,000 worth of debt on those cards. Yeah. And they were struggling to pay their mortgage and trying to keep their kids above water. Well, guess what? They reached out to Team Hochberg. Team Hochberg then reached out to the credit card companies, worked out a plan for them to reduce their credit card debt every month by more than $2,800. They were able to save their homes. That could be you. It's happening to a lot of people. So I want you to call 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com, 56david.com, so that you can get on the road to financial freedom. Let's talk about politically motivated violence. Last weekend, we were all shocked and disturbed, at least some of us were, by the attack on Paul Pelosi, the husband, the 82-year-old husband of the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, in their home in San Francisco. And I say some of us because distressingly, disturbingly, shockingly, painfully, really it's vulgar. Some people have laughed about this attack on this man. This is a human being, everybody. Somebody's husband, somebody's father, grandfather, a human being. I don't have to agree with your politics. I just know that we cannot survive. We cannot have a more perfect union if we attack each other physically because of political disagreement. I don't care how strenuously you disagree with someone. You're not supposed to kill somebody. That's not the way we're supposed to do this. Of course, joining us today, Attorney Aaron Connolly and Attorney Daryl Jones staying with us, but we've got Dwight McKee, a brilliant social scientist, beloved by us, known as Dr. D. We have got Attorney Mark Fancher, lawyer, author, got his book, The Negroes of Friends Village, and Bryce Green. You've heard him here before from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, talking about this today. Dwight, why don't you set the table? And I say that because, you were with us. I was a little girl, of course. I didn't know what all of it meant when our congressman, who's now retiring, Bobby Rush, was one of the Black Panthers. And after the assassinations of Mark Clark and Fred Hampton, he was on the run, one of the 10 most wanted men in America. And he surrendered to all of us. And then you've seen politically motivated violence. What do you make of what's happening in America right now, Dwight McKee?
Business as usual. I mean, has anybody heard of Ku Klux Klan? It's anybody heard of Selma? It's business as usual. America's always been based on political violence and the implementation thereof. It's as soon as the Civil War was over, the Confederate generals band together and put together the Ku Klux Klan, whose whole design was to impose violence on any black person trying to vote. And that has been that way for the last 150 years. This is really just an extension of that. This is it's the same, it's the grand and great grandchildren of the same cloud. That's why it's the same flags. That's why there's some of the same issues. It is white supremacists have, since the inception of the country, the way it's imposed its will has been violence, whether it's been on the Native Americans, whether it's been on Black Americans, whether it's been on our new brothers from the South who are coming up, whether it's been on the Haitians. It is the nature of the American institution of voting, of political elections. This is nothing new.
Attorney Mark Fancher, your thoughts?
Well, I think for all of the reasons that Dwight just said, I'm reluctant to characterize it as political violence. I really think that we have to be precise and understand that this is racial violence. And that's true even though in this instance, both in the Pelosi instance, both the victim and the attacker were both white. Because at the root of all of this is a mass, widespread panic that has gripped a large segment of the white population in this country. They have, for some time now, been growing increasingly afraid that their grip on the domination of this society at every level is slipping. And now they're at the point where they think that they've just about lost it. They look at things like the demographic projections and the stories run wild in their communities about them being outpaced population-wise. And they look at the number of people coming across the border. They look at the fact that there was this black man who was president. They look at all of these kinds of things, and it just fans the flames of fear that many of them have, and they are resorting to desperate measures. And so in their war, and it really is a war, and they characterize it as such, in their war to hold on to power, and to hold on to hegemony and dominance and all of those kinds of things, they take no prisoners. And it doesn't matter that the targets of their violence happen to be of the same racial identity as they are. They're prepared to take collaborators and allies and anybody else who's standing in the way of their agenda. And on the flip side, they're also not reluctant to embrace people of color who are also on board with their agenda, witness Herschel Walker. So we have a racial phenomenon that doesn't always play itself out in terms of the people involved in the drama fitting neatly into racial boxes. But there is no mistake that this is a racially driven phenomenon, much like during Reconstruction with the rise of the Klan and everything else. The motivation is still the same. In Reconstruction, the same kinds of fears and the same kind of panic was present when white workers began to see newly freed African people ascending to positions that they thought they would never see them ascend to politically. Watching them have a literacy rate that accelerated at a rate that's really incomparable throughout human history. Watching them establish enterprises of the kind that made them very jealous, witness Black Wall Street. I mean, all of these things are cyclical, and they're all driven by the same dynamic.
Bryce Green, your thoughts?
Right. One important aspect to this dynamic that's being discussed here is the economic side, right? I mean, it's the same problem that happened in Nazi Germany or in any place where there was a major rise of anti-Semitism. The economic dispossession of the working class, the fact that people weren't able to control their own lives, the fact that the decisions about their life were being made in remote, far-off places. I mean, that's disturbing to a lot of people, especially when your living conditions are getting worse and worse and worse. You're noticing the country around you fall apart. And it's difficult in our media environment to actually get a grip for what are the actual people behind that. The answer is, of course, corporations, military industrial complex, prison industrial complexes, all of these outflows of capital and capitalism. And so when a lot of people see their world falling apart around them, it makes it very easy for them to accept, infantile explanations for their suffering. And a lot of these far-right people are isolated, alienated. They notice that sometimes there are more brown people around them. And so then they get on these online forums, they get on a media environment that tells them that these brown people are the problem. Then they start to believe it. And then, the rest is history. It can be, racial violence. It can be insane racist election campaigns. It can be all of that stuff. But we will never be able to fix it unless we get at the root of our alienation, right? We will never get over the scapegoating of black people, the scapegoating of any racial group, the scapegoating of Nancy Pelosi as the individual. We will never get past that unless collectively we're able to name names about who is the root of our discontent. And like I said, the answer is corporate power. The major corporations control the entire economic world of Americans. They control who gets jobs. They control where investment goes. They control whether or not your school gets funded. And all of these issues are important. But, the American media environment doesn't really connect these to issues of corporate power. And so then, like I said, it's easy for people to fall into traps of, racial hatred and weird theories about how the world works. And so, like I said, we need to be able to combat that. We need to be able to fight that with education, with alternative structures of organization that might be able to give people an alternate explanation for how their lives are getting worse.
Call us at 773-763-9278. What are your thoughts? Well, listening to Bryce Green and attorney Mark Fancher and Dwight McKee, Attorney Daryl Jones, and you and attorney Robert Arnwine and the Transformative Justice Coalition were down in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery's family when no one even knew about the case. Would you put his murder in a political context, a political lineage?
Well, yeah, there certainly is a political context in which it can be heard, right? Because we know that this was something that was generated and the result of hate. It was a straight-out hate crime, and it was devaluing the life of Ahmaud Arbery to get to the point that you feel as though you can chase someone down as you would be on a hunt. And then to use a rifle that would be used to bring down an elephant to blow 3 holes through their chest, such that light could be seen through the body. That's a devaluation of the person. And then from there, we know that what happens is that the state's attorney, the prosecutor, who's sworn into office to protect the family, sworn into office to protect the public, has the officers not arrest these three killers and sends them home, blood on their hands, collects no evidence, sends them home. This is a whole political context because they believe that they could devalue the life of Ahmaud, that they didn't think there would be any political ramifications to what they were doing negatively from the African-American community, that they could do this, with impunity and walk away from it and not have them prosecuted. And so, in terms of the political context of it, it lets you know that they were in such a state, that the prosecutor was in such a state, that the killers were in such a state that they believed that they could do this and walk away from it. But it's the political accountability side that brings it all to bear. And that's why the prosecutor in that case now will be standing trial for her actions, her lack of actions. It's why the 3 killers now were found guilty by a jury and by 2 juries, right? One in the state court and one in the federal court. So politically, that was an action that they thought that they could take and get away with it. And they only would have thought that because it probably has happened in the past. That they've gotten away with this, that it was in their mindset, it was in their psyche that this was okay to occur. So it's a matter of breaking that psyche down. It's a matter, I think, of remaining active and strong in the minds of Black and brown voters, that there is power in that vote. There is importance in having representation that is accountable to our community and to all of the community that exists. So, yeah, I think it certainly fits in a political context and in a voting rights context, Santita.
Aaron, so your thoughts? I got a couple of minutes before we go to break. What about this? Political. Can we really become a more perfect union as it's this politically motivated violence? It's just in the DNA of the country. I can look around the world, but it's here. This is what we do. It's just not how it should be done.
I think Dwight set it up perfectly, and we have to look at the truth before we can have our more perfect union. We have to recognize that this colonist mentality that stole land from the indigenous people in our country is how we started. We are a nation that had slaves. We are a nation that discriminated against the immigrant population that built the infrastructure of our country. We have to look at those pieces. The political violence is a natural offshoot of that colonist or Wild West manifest destiny mentality, that if something isn't how the people in power like it, then we can just take it with force. And we see the evidence of that in many cases throughout the world as America became a superpower and started messing around with other people's governments, and often did so with violent uprising as well. So we have to really take a look at the history, the reality of this country. And this is nothing new. It was one of the great honors of my life to work with the Kennedy family, the same way my great aunt worked with Robert Kennedy in California, and unfortunately was a part of his campaign and endured the trauma of watching him be assassinated as well. And when you talk to those family members, this is still very real for them. This is someone's husband and father and grandfather that did not get to fulfill his destiny. And when we look at the media coverage and some of the responses to the attack on Paul Pelosi, it's just terrible. Not only is he a human being, but this is a leader of our country. People are wearing Halloween costumes pretending to be the attacker and laughing and snickering on it on television. Yes. Elected people running for office. I will send you the information so I don't misquote it. But people running for office are dressing as this attacker and with T-shirts that say "Where's Nancy?"
Wait.
Speaker of the House.
Stay right there, Dwight. What do you make of that? I got about I only pivoted to Dwight, Aaron, because Dwight has seen so much. 'Cause they went out looking for Bobby Rush. Just because the FBI they were afraid he was going to be killed by them, or even the Chicago police. Somebody. What do you make of that, Dwight? What does that say about us now?
Well, again, it's not even policy driven. For the most part, it's racial driven. It is a group of people who believe that they have the moral superiority and the racial purity to run the world. And not just America, but the whole wide world. It's an arrogance and a presumption and a self-concept that is almost unique to them.
Well, no, not the world, Dwight. Remember, they want to colonize space. Dwight. Colonialism in space? How's that going to work, Dwight?
It's an arrogance. It is a God complex. And so when you are God, then there is no other constraints other than how you operate, because you're the last word on everything. You have the right to impose your will on everything and everybody. So in many ways, it's beyond race. It's beyond, economics. It is arrogance of a people that is very unique in world history, that they believe that God has put, that they are God and they are in charge.
Hold that thought.
And everybody's subjected to them. Huh?
Hold that thought. I got to go to break. I want to hear what your thoughts are, everybody. 773-763-9278. What about this politically motivated violence we're hearing about from this wonderful panel? What it's grounded in? What do you think? Call us at 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. Oh, keep talking, everybody. We're on Facebook Live now. Mark, I know you got something to say. Hello.
No, I agree. I agree with what Dwight has said. I mean, it's more it's too complex to reduce to any simple explanations, because bound up in it are cultures that are unique to people who have come from Europe. Not to say that people everywhere don't have their violent tendencies and engage in barbarism and all kinds of things, but Europe in particular has a tradition and a history and a culture which has manifested in a way which, at least to date, has been more destructive globally than anything that we've seen coming from other places in the world. And I think we just have to come to terms with that.
What has shaped them? What has shaped them? What is it? Because when Ukraine was invaded, you had Prince William and you had all of these other prominent figures in Europe who said, "Well, this doesn't happen over here." I was like, "Honey, you all war all the time, But somewhere in your understanding of your history, wars don't happen here. You make them happen every place else."
Yeah, I think there are various theories, but I think most of them revolve around the historical circumstances of Europe. You have places in the Southern Hemisphere which ecologically and environmentally are very balanced and allow for people in those regions to provide for their basic needs with relative ease. In terms of their access to natural resources, climate, agricultural conditions, and other things. In northern parts of the planet, where those conditions are not there, it becomes necessary to struggle to survive in ways that other peoples aren't. And sometimes that involves moving beyond your geographic limitations.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Paul, you're not supposed to call it. Remember, I have an asterisk there. Not until 7:45. Paul? Oh, okay. Keep talking, please. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that, there becomes a compelling need to reach beyond your geographic boundaries to get resources that you need and ultimately to get labor that you want. You don't need it, but you want it. And if you have historically gotten things that you want in places where you live through acts of barbarism, then you extend that, to other places. And Europe has a history of barbarism and barbarians and barbaric tribes that were warring against each other. The traditions are,
1 minute.
Paul, one moment. Paul, did you get that message? You say that's on. I have that on the run sheet. That we should have him up by 7:45. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry.
And then, Mark, when you tie that into a sense of divine bloodlines, then you can understand how that history goes back and forth. Because with that sense of divine bloodlines, is that they become the purveyors. They have become the purveyors of wars in those various tribes, and each one of those tribes has operated historically with this divine sense of bloodline, which is what we witnessed last week when the Queen died, and the whole country came out and mourned, and then it
change the world, change the world, change the world. We can can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Hope you'll join us on Keep Hope Alive this weekend as we talk about this and all these other issues. 4 days out from the midterms, go to vote.org, vote.org, so that you can find out if you're still registered to vote and so that you can find out where you can go vote, where you are supposed to go vote. Everyone knows when you're registered, they let you know exactly where you're supposed to go vote. And call 1-866-OUR-VOTE if you have any problems getting your vote in, everybody. We're talking about political violence, politically motivated violence in America. I just came across a news story that shows that a wide and bipartisan majority of Americans worry there is increased danger of politically motivated violence in the United States, according to a Washington Post ABC News poll. Nearly 9 in 10 Americans, 88%, are concerned that political divisions have intensified to the point, according to this Washington Post report, they feel that these differences between us have intensified to the point that there's an increased risk of politically motivated violence in the United States. And, you know, I think just coming out of the civil rights movement, and I guess I'm the young guard of the old guard, because I'm old enough to have met Dr. King. I was barely remember it, but we did meet him several times, many times. He was my brother Jonathan's god brother. Oh, by the way, election night, we're going to have a watch party at the South Shore Cultural Center. Morning Stars, everybody. I hope you'll join us there. Hope it's a victory party. But you know, I just, you know, what's been disturbing to me and just unsettling. And I have to say this. Let me just bring Bryce back in. Is, you know, this sense when you listen to the corporate driven media, they're like, oh my goodness, this has never happened here before. I'm like, honey, I know too many people who were killed in politically motivated violence. You kidding me? I mean, Bryce, it's just the you know, just turning our back on our history to me is just, that's so dangerous. Bryce Green.
You're exactly right. I mean, the mainstream media and the corporate media have some of the worst historical amnesia of any people who are like addressing the current state of affairs. Right? Like you said, you remember that. I've read about it. Our parents do. Our grandparents do. They know about it. But the corporate media seems to think that political violence is just, you know, a new phenomenon, and it's only attributable to, you know, people like Donald Trump, or it's only attributable to, you know, right-wing figures like Tim Pool or Tucker Carlson or whoever, you know, pick a villain. But of course, they don't look at the underlying processes that generate this violence. They don't look at how the structural incentives we have really leave people with very few options within our political arena. And that leaves them feeling disempowered. And then if you combine that with the sort of hatred that we've always had in our country, well, then you're going to have political violence. But, you know, the corporate media doesn't make these connections. All they do is, you know, they blame it on one of their villains. And, you know, it's the business model, right? Mm-hmm. People tune in to cable news. People tune in to their favorite channels or whatever in order to get a dose of something that they already expect, right? If you're on the right wing, you get on, you tune in. They're blaming liberals. They're blaming Democrats. They're blaming Pelosi and AOC and all those people. If you get on, you know, Democratic liberal news, they're blaming Mitch McConnell. They're blaming Donald Trump. They're blaming everyone. But no one takes a holistic view. No one understands that these processes that lead to this violence are baked into the structure of our country. And we won't be able to change that unless, and especially unless corporate media or the general media environment in America is able to assimilate these things into their worldview and are able to present an alternative viewpoint to the people, to present a way to organize politically, a way to understand the history of political violence in America, a way to understand what exactly we're up against without resorting to, you know, like cartoons and stereotypes. We need to do better than that.
Dwight, what do you see happening now? I mean, because now they're taking all of these polls, and that's a calculation too, that shows that, oh boy, Americans up in arms, and but people do feel. You did say to me 20 years ago that as you saw an unplugging of the economy, and you said there's going to be a lot there's going to be a lot of fallout from that, and you're going to see Americans become very violent. Particularly white Americans, because they're not accustomed to being disempowered, disenfranchised, and this is going to get ugly. What did you see, Dwight?
I saw that. That's exactly what I saw. The other part of the American mythology is white people. Many of them feel like they have this right of happiness, pursuit of happiness, and this right of fulfillment. And they really, operated in the mythology and developed their lives around the mythology. And so now that they find out that a lot of that is a myth, they themselves are having a nervous breakdown. Because at one level they felt superior to us, but at another level they felt entitled to all those things that had been defined for them as white Americans. And as that becomes less accessible, it's very hard for them to process. And for many of them, the only way they know how to process that is through violence. It's the same violence that made it possible for it to be a reality. That is the violence imposed upon the natives when they took the land, the violence imposed upon us when they forced us into slavery to work the land. It's that same violence that gave them access to those rights and those freedoms. Now that they don't have access to that same violence become their only option and their only response.
Well, I have a few minutes before we bring on Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes, to let us know what's going on there. I mean, what do you see, Mark? I mean, how will this play out? Is there a remedy, or does this just have to play out? Because if it just plays out, it just seems like this is so destructive.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a remedy. The question is, will people recognize it and use it? I think both Dwight and Bryce are absolutely correct in terms of how they explain all of this. And what has happened is that historically, when the U.S. was first established, it was set up in a way that allowed for a few elite propertied men, landowners and slave owners, to control everything. Few white elite property owners to do this. And the broad masses of white people, many of them very poor, were sucked into supporting these people and ignoring any of their crimes and misdeeds under the cloak of white nationalism. They created this myth, this belief that they were all in it together, that all white people were going to be prospering in this country together, when in fact, these elite groups were exploiting and oppressing these same people. And what they did is that they used these white workers to perpetrate acts of violence against people who were not part of the white nation. So it was the poor white workers who were sent to war against indigenous peoples in the wars that were fought to conquer them and to commit acts of genocide against them. It was poor white workers who were used as overseers on plantations to keep the Africans in line. And so over time, these white elite individuals have been supplanted and replaced by major corporations who still use the same playbook. They still use the idea of white nationalism to keep all these white workers in line, and not only to keep them in line, but to go to war and perpetrate acts of violence against communities of color in order to prevent a couple of things. One, from communities of color rising up and resisting, and two,
Senator Hughes is on the line.
And this delusion that somehow white workers' interests are more closely aligned with major corporations than they are with the people who are their natural allies, which are communities of color that are oppressed. And so the remedy for this is for people to wake up, especially white workers, for them to understand that their interests are more closely aligned with the people that they're currently attacking than they are with the major corporations, which lurk behind the scenes and manipulate, dominate, exploit to their advantage. And I don't know of anybody who has seriously undertaken the task of trying to wake up white workers, because the remedy for this is for them to wake up and for them to join forces with communities of color and for all of them to get together and to crush the corporations.
Well, you know, I tell you, we are in a battle. We are in a battle, and I've got Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes with us today because, you know, you've got North Carolina, you have got Georgia, you've got Kentucky, you have got all of these states, Arizona, that are at play on every level, on the city, county, and state levels, and the federal levels. And so I'm very, very honored that Mr. Cheryl Lee Ralph could be with us today to tell us what's happening. Well, you know, I love, that's my dream girl. My girlfriends and I were talking about it the other day. When I was a freshman at Howard, we would take the train or the cheap plane ride up to New York to watch her. The original Dreamgirls cast, love her. And congratulations again on her Emmy win, historic as it was. What's going on with the Fetterman race? We understand that Oprah Winfrey publicly endorsed not the person she put on the map, Dr. Mehmet Oz, but John Fetterman. What's going on? And it seems that he didn't take the hit from his debate that Raphael Warnock took. People felt that Raphael Warnock wasn't tough enough. What's going on up there in Pennsylvania?
Well, I think where we, Santita, and again, thank you very much. And I will, as I've always said, be glad to be called Mr. Shirley Ralph any day of the week. All right. So we're very cool on that. But look, I think we have a situation where, after all of the money has been spent, all the conversations that have been had, which should be almost a no-brainer. It seems folks are coming home to some great traditions or some historic traditions that they've always voted in, and this is all within the margin now. And so, as I said, after hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent in terms of commercials and advertising and texting and Facebooking and all that other kind of stuff, we're within the margin of Pennsylvania. I believe Fetterman is up by a few points, and it again comes out to turnout. I mean, this shouldn't be close. This shouldn't be close. The issues that were raised that I heard the previous gentleman discussing should really make this a no-brainer. Oz would not have voted for Ketanji Brown Jackson. Oz would not vote for raising the minimum wage. Oz would not vote for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Fetterman would take care of all those things in a heartbeat, which are fundamental to all communities all across Pennsylvania, not just a handful. So it's tight, and it is about turnout, and we're in the last 4 or 5 days. However, except for the fact that early voting has already been going on for a couple of weeks in Pennsylvania. So Oprah's decision yesterday brings attention to the public conversation. We're talking about it, and hopefully that will wake up some of those bones that may have been sleeping or laying at rest for far too long.
Well, let me ask you this. How is it that you have someone who essentially lives in New Jersey, a nationally known figure? Of course, you know, we've seen celebrity candidates before. I get that. And, you know, now increasingly, if you run for office, you need to have kind of like a celebrity patina around you, you know, because we've turned this really into showbiz. What is it about him that has had some appeal over your sitting lieutenant governor? What is it? What's going on?
I think that, you know, it's really one party that goes after the celebrity candidates. If you look around the country, in Pennsylvania, it's Oz. In Georgia, it's Herschel Walker. In California, with Schwarzenegger, it was the Terminator. All right, you know, so they have a propensity for that. I believe their strategy suggests that they can't necessarily appeal on policy, so they go after the celebrity side. I think that if Fetterman had not had the health issue that he had, and if people would be in their right mind about supporting an individual who, even though they had a disability, they would support that individual to overcome that situation. I think this would be in a very difficult situation, very different situation. I believe Fetterman would be up dramatically. People have forgotten, and we talked about this the last time, Santita. People have forgotten that one of the greatest presidents this country has ever had, one of them, brought us out of depression, suffered with polio, and served his entire tenure in a wheelchair. Franklin Roosevelt. Are we saying that if we have a disability that we can't serve? Are we saying that if we tell our children, we tell ourselves, we tell our children that when you're knocked down, you get back up. You don't run away from the race, you run towards the race. But somehow it's gotten in people's minds that is a disqualifying factor in this situation here in Pennsylvania. So if you ask me what's gotten in, obviously the Trump factor and this national conversation around the destruction of our democracy, that's obviously playing in. But I think those are some of the very basic things that we're talking about here as we observe the situation in Pennsylvania.
We're talking with Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes about the Fetterman race, the Oz race. Will Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman prevail over Dr. Mehmet Oz? What is that looking like now? What is turnout like? We know that in California, they've had about 2 million people who've come out. You have several states. We've had more than 25 million people vote. 53 million people have asked for absentee ballots. We have broken the 2018 records. Are you seeing that same level of enthusiasm in Pennsylvania?
Early voting is up, especially among young people.
Okay.
And that is a very good sign that the percentage is higher with respect to young people for Democratic ballots cast. And that is a very, very, very positive sign that we're just going to have to ride all the way, hopefully to a victory. It amazes me once again, Santita, why people tend to vote against their own self-interest. And it is our responsibility, our job to remind folks to look past the personality and look towards the real policies that are in front of them and the decisions that will be made. There are very clear differences. I mean, even in the governor's race in Pennsylvania, you got the MAGA Republican who was at the insurrection, who was a Confederate uniform wearing anti-Semite candidate. I said it, you didn't. All right. All right. I'm clear. We have a long-term public servant who's got a record of only doing good, and the fact that individual on the Republican side still has standing in this public conversation is a real concern. I think Josh Shapiro will be successful, but we need to be very careful about the undergirding of the Republican candidate for governor in Pennsylvania, because, that is an example of what's really percolating amongst the broader public. We need to be very concerned about that. Even in the end of the Trump administration, the FBI director said the greatest threat to America was from the far right white supremacist operation. That is still out there. That is still what we need to be concerned about.
But the FBI never infiltrate. They rarely infiltrate, should I say, their organizations. They're too busy looking at BLM. I'm like, you're in the wrong spot, buddy. You need to be over with these jokes who go over on the Capitol, U.S. Capitol.
Wrong church, wrong church, wrong pew.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So what do you want people to know about voting? I mean, because, Reverend Jackson talks about really the theft of votes does not occur. Attorney Jones and Attorney Connolly and Attorney Fancher and Bryce Green and Dwight McKee. It doesn't happen. People don't go up and grab 100,000 votes. They skim 10 votes per precinct. You just skim. Every vote does matter. What's at stake in this election?
Well, I mean, for me, Santita, it is the fundamental. This is the fundamentals. This is an all on the line situation. We need to understand that at the national level, we could have 51, and we could be in the business of breaking the filibuster and really getting at the issues that challenge regular people all across the country. It is a public conversation that has international impact as well. How we interact with countries all across the nation. Mm-hmm. It is about all of the fundamentals for me, and people need to understand that, and people need to vote their interests. Get beyond the personalities, vote their interests.
State Senator, Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes talking to us about what is at stake. And what is at stake in Pennsylvania is what is at stake in Illinois. It's what is at stake in North Carolina, in Georgia, in Maine, in Vermont, in California, from coast to coast, north, south, east, west, in all the territories. It's where we go from here. Chaos or community, Dwight? I really think that's Dr. King asked that profound question more than 50 years ago. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? I've got 1 minute for you, Dwight.
Well, we've never had community. So Dr. King, when he raised the question, where do we go from here, chaos or community? He was really raising a hypothetical question. It's we've never had community. The fact of the matter is, and the people who are voting in one level, Santita, I'm hoping that the Republicans do win. Because then these other white people who've been operating under this illusion of inclusion will discover that they are really just like us to these corporate guys, to these rich guys. And they will end up paying a real price once these guys, these billionaire guys get in power and treat them like they treated us and the natives. And they discover that, they've been used all the time. And then you will see another backlash like you saw at the Capitol, where that's what they was kind of figured out then. They hadn't put all of the pieces together. But that's what the frustration was. And so what you'll see is that there's going to be a backlash to the backlash. And if these Republicans win and start implementing some of these real policies and start taking away Social Security, start taking away the medical benefits, start taking away those things, the labor laws, then you will see white people have a real awakening and say, hey, wow, we've been tricked and deceived all the time. And that's when you will see the counter-revolution.
Well, wake up, wake up, wake up. Everybody, please get out there and vote. Vote.org. I'm going to have to reach out to you on Sunday, but I'm sure you'll be in these churches, State Senator Vincent Hughes. But, give Reverend Jackson, your uncle, a call. I have to do that. I met Senator Hughes when Reverend was first running for president in 1984, back in the day. And he's continued to grow and do so many great things. And he and his wife, Cheryl Lee Ralph, making history. She's still doing that. Sending you much love, my dear big brother. And Dwight McKee and Attorney Mark Fancher and Bryce Green and Attorney Aaron Connolly and Attorney Daryl Jones on his way down. Where are you on your way to, Daryl? Very quickly. I mean, all jokes aside.
We'll be headed down to Wisconsin, to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to help down there and monitoring what's going on in their election series.
Well, they need to do that because when goodness gracious, when State Senator Lena Taylor was running for mayor, they had 180 precincts, only 5 of them were open. This is a real thing, everybody. Vote.org. See you on Keep Up Alive on Sunday. God bless you. Get out and vote, everybody. I love you. Have a wonderful weekend. I love you all. I'm going to run out of here today. But thank you so much. Oh, boy. Thank you. Thank you. And I got a chance to meet Bryce this week. I was so happy. Made me feel real good.
Yes, excellent time. Excellent time.
What a wonderful, and please give your friend my love. I hope you all got back in time because I know you were running like, we got to get out of here. We got to get to this party.
Yeah. He had to go to a dinner, and he got there on time. So
okay. Well, I'm glad to know that. He was really sweet. Really, really sweet. Please give him my best. Everybody, I love you. I'm going to get on out of here. As you can hear, I'm stapling and running because I've got a lot of little things I've got to do today. And I'm walking out here in 12 minutes. So there's that. But I love you both. And I'll reach out to you, Bryce. Let me know if you're going to be available on Sunday because I would love to have you on. Reach out to everybody here. I love you all. Love you. Thank you, Paul. Everybody, have a great day. I'm going to hang out. I love you all. I love you, Morning Stars. Love you, love you, love you. And let's give peace a chance. Let's try that one, everybody. Let's do that. And remember, peace starts from within. I love you all. I'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.